Hi, my name is Justin Gordon. I'm going to give you a quick presentation on some features of RubyMine. The inspiration for this presentation is based on a couple of things. First of all, there's this program called railstutorial.org, which was developed by Michael Hartle. He's a friend of mine. It's an absolutely great package for learning Ruby on Rails. He came out with a little video here on how to use Sublime Text 2. I took a look at that and I thought, hey, I've been using RubyMine for a while, and I think RubyMine is a pretty neat product. So I thought what I would do is I would give you a comparison, not so much actually a comparison, but I'll give you a little presentation on doing the things in RubyMine that Michael does in this Ruby on Rails tutorial, little video on Sublime Text 2. Here is a little shot of Michael's application that he builds in the tutorial. I'm not going to go over any details on the tutorial. I recommend that if you want details on the tutorial, you take a look at railstutorial.org. It's an absolutely great program, and in fact, Michael gives most of it away except the screencasts, and I think that, however, I do think the screencasts are well worth it. So without further ado, let's get into RubyMine. First of all, I'm going to go into RubyMine, and I'm going to set a preference. And what I'm going to show you is I'm going to go over to key map, and RubyMine offers a lot of different options for your key map. I'm going to use for this presentation the macOS default, which is 10.5 plus. I'm not actually familiar with this key map per se. What I use is I use Vim. RubyMine has an amazing Vim binding. I actually used to use Emacs, but due to some wrist problems, I ended up learning Vim, and I've been super happy with the Vim bindings. And possibly in a future presentation, I'll show off how using the Vim bindings can dramatically accelerate how you enter code. So I could pick on the macOS 10.5.x, and we'll go ahead with this one. So one thing to know about is that in RubyMine, any action can be mapped to any keyboard shortcut you like. So don't be frustrated or don't be concerned if the key bindings I show you are not the ones that maybe you would like. The point is that you can map them to anything you like. So first of all, what I want to do is show you a little bit of an overview of the UI here. Here's a file, user.rb, and so let me close this and let me show you how you might get to this file. It's actually a hint on the screen right here. Open a file by name with Command-Shift-O. Let's try that. Command-Shift-O. That brings up a dialog box here. Takes you right to any file inside the project. Notice if I hit U _ P, it'll take me to user pages. If I hit UP, it'll also take me to user pages. If I go user.rb, that takes me right there too. So that would open up the file as well. RubyMine also gives you a feature to navigate directly to a class. So if I know I'm going to want to go user, it goes right there. And it's a little bit of a cleaner listing, shows you directly the classes that you might have defined. Over on the left, we've got a really nice project navigator. The navigator is great for browsing through the files. Oftentimes I'll want to add a file in the same directory. Say I want to add a file where user is. Let's say I have the project navigator closed. There's a command here, Option F1. Select Target Project View. I hit Project, and then boom, I'm in the directory that shows me where that file is. And if I want to add a new file, I right-click there and hit New File. So back to going ahead and showing you a few things that Michael showed. Let's take a look at a few other things in this file. First of all is when you have a file, when you have any keywords that are misspelled, you get a nice little information message on misspellings. Surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, this is incredibly helpful. The reason why is that a lot of times when you misspell something, it's actually a typo, not so much that maybe your variable is not quite right. RubyMine does a really great job of showing you misspellings of words that are you're merely misspelling a word as opposed to just some variable that's not going to match up to a word. I'm not really sure how it does it, but it does it in a really great job. Next, the file I'm showing you has all the Nice sort of things you'd expect from syntax colorization. It's all completely customizable. I'm using a syntax colorization called RailsCast. This is what Ryan Bates uses in his well-known series called RailsCast. It's also what Michael Hartel uses in his screencast. I use this for my day-to-day work, and I really enjoy using it. So now I want to show you is how do you actually go about, say you want to go to a particular method instantly in this file. You go navigate, file structure. Normally I hit Command F12 or whatever you have it bound to. And this gives you a nice little view of methods to go to. And let's say I start typing in FE, and it takes me right there to the feed method. If I put 2_s, notice that it automatically, because there were no methods found in user, it'll go to the inherited classes. So in this case, it's going to go to whatever user is inheriting from, which is active record base. I think it may even go all the way to object as well. But as you can see here, it shows like 2JSON. Maybe I actually want to take a look at the JSON implementation that user inherits from. So here you can see the implementation for as JSON. Next, notice I want to show you the navigation bar up on top here. This is pretty handy. Whenever you're looking at a file, it shows you exactly where you're getting the file from. On a big screen, I really like it, having the navigation bar. However, on the small screen, it's going to be helpful to turn this off. So I'm going to turn off the navigation bar. Down here, it's checked off. You can see you have options for toolbar, tool button, status bar, navigation bar. The toolbar is up at the top, and I do find that useful even with a small amount of screen space. Tool buttons, what those are the buttons on the edges that bring up things like the structure window, the project window I just showed you. The status bar is useful for showing you what line number you're in and information about Git, etc. The navigation bar is what we're going to turn off right now. I'm going to close the structure menu. Next, I'm going to show you how we can, so say we're in this file, and one of the things that it's a good practice to do is generate your tests along with generating your code. I'm going to also turn off this project window over here. So I click over there. There's a lot of different ways to navigate around this. You can click here. I can also hit Command 1, as you can see the one's highlighted, and that will hide it and show it as well. So I click there. When you click on these buttons, they toggle the different options here. Like for example, there's a structure menu here. If I click there, you can see you can navigate by the structure of the file. I actually do not use that one too much, but sometimes I use it. So let's go to the test that relates to the user file. This is a really handy navigational tool that RubyMine gives you, is we'll navigate to the test. So Command-Shift-T is the option. So it's pretty smart, and if you have multiple tests that may be related, then you can it'll give you an option on those too. Now, when I'm in this file, I can also hit Command-Shift-T and go back to the file. What you might want to do is you might want to view these side by side, and that's no problem with RubyMine. We can go here and we'll go split vertically. I have this mapped to a key binding, you probably would too. Here I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of good options to know about just like right-clicking in the tabs for the different buffers you're seeing. So split vertically. Now I split it vertically. I'll close the user on the left-hand side. So I've got my test here on the left, and I've got user on the right. So if you want to navigate between the panes using the keyboard, what you can do is you can hit Control-Tab. And that goes between there. Notice that Control-Tab brings up something called the switcher. In my practice of using RubyMine, I actually don't really care for the switcher, because if I want to go to one of these other windows, I'll hit directly Command and the number and go to those windows. And if I want to just switch between the different panes, I find it much easier to just use the normal sort of keystroke, which is just Command or Control-Tab, which will just go directly there. So say we want to change that. How do I do that? I'm going to open up the preferences, which is Command, just like most Mac apps. And then I'm going to go to Key Map, and now I'm going to hit the Find option, and I'm going to hit Control Tab. Now the interesting thing is that Control Tab in the default binding is mapped to two different ones, Go to Next Splitter and Switcher. And I'm going to actually remove the Switcher binding by right-clicking on this, because I just want it to go to the next splitter. So let's remove that binding, and I'm actually going to remove the other binding because there should be going backwards as well. Control-Shift-Tab goes to previous splitter, and that's what I want. Not sure why those are not the defaults, but worry not, because it's super easy to change these. So I hit Apply, hit OK. Now watch when I hit Control-Tab, it just goes directly there. And this is handy if I say, let's say I split this window horizontally. So now when I hit Control-Tab, it rotates through the different windows, just as I'd expect. Now I can hit Control-Shift-Tab, and that's a lot better. So next I want to show you is what it's like to run the different tests in RubyMine. So let's go over to the test window here. So when you run the test, there's a shortcut to run all the tests at once. I tend to actually use a key binding which maps to running the test based on wherever the cursor is. So I right click here, and right here it says Run User. I'm going to hit that one, or I could hit Control-Shift-R. So notice here it's RubyMine's got a really nice test runner. You can click to any one of these tests if there was particular output you can see how long the test took to run on the right hand side. It's got a filter where you can hide the passing test. That's nice when you say I have one test that fails. So let's see what's next. Okay, so now I want to run a specific test. So I'm going to go over here, and let's just say I want to run this test right here. So I'm going to hit Control-Shift-R, and that's going to run wherever the cursor is. So as you can see, in this case, it only ran one test. Let's say I change this test, and I'm going to remove the not. So it's a little bit reversed. Run the test again, and it shows me that there's a failure, shows me the different test message, shows me the message there for the failure. If I wanted to run the whole test, so failed one, and I can filter by the failing test, go there. I can hit you can jump to source right from the failing test, or you can click on wherever there's one of these stack traces. So click there. Now, what I want to show you is that over on the left-hand side, we got these little blue bars. The little blue bars mean that there's a file that's been changed. According to, we're using Git for our source code repository. I can click on that, and this lets me go through the different changes up and down. You can do that to a key binding as shown by the tooltip. I can roll this change back, or I can even look at it in a differencing window. So I'm going to roll it back, and now I'm back to the original. So let's take a look at another one. Let's say we're in the user file. I'm going to comment out has secure password. RubyMine is a really nice way you can comment out code. It's the default binding is Command/, so you can highlight some lines and hit Command/. Then we'll go and run the test again. Let's see. This time I'm going to find a case where we say we got just a few tests to run. Okay, micro post associations. I'm going to run this. In this case, all the different 6 tests inside of there fail. All the time when I'm developing code, I'm consistently doing this. I'm writing some tests and testing usually the test I'm working on first before I test everything else. I'll revert that back, rerun the test, and it's all green. Let me, I want to show you, let's comment out a couple more things, and let me show you the changes window, which is really handy. Notice here, this is a view into your Git repository. So this is showing me that it's, I've got these two files currently changed. If I hit Command D, it'll show me the difference on the file. RubyMine has a really nice way of diffing files, and one of the nicest features about the diffing tool is that the editor works inside the diffing tool. This is a feature I've often wished for in other applications but have not seen. So I can go over here to the line over on the right, line 5, and I'm going to hit the keyboard command / for commenting. It also toggles and uncomments too. So I fix that. Notice the bottom now says no differences. It's got really nice features for ignoring white space or not ignoring it, and that is very handy. You can go, when you're in this window, instead of closing the diff window, typically I'll go to next file. So I go over here in the next file, look, it's showing no differences, but why is it showing up? I'm ignoring all white space. If I say do not ignore, now it'll show me some places where it's where the white space is causing an issue. So I can go through here and I can hit the down arrow, and that shows me where there's some subtle white space differences. It seems like actually Michael's example has trailing white space on the ends of lines. Trailing white space on the ends of lines is extremely annoying to people doing merges. RubyMine automatically removes all trailing white space. I think there's some option you can turn that off, but it is incredibly useful, and it seems quite unfortunate that these files were checked into GitHub with trailing white space. I'm going to close this. Another option that RubyMine has that's really neat is a way you can format the whole file. So I'll go code, and I'm going to reformat code, Command Option L. And notice you've got some lines here. I can do only the VCS change text. That's good when you're working on a team and you don't want to be reformatting other code unnecessarily, especially if you have lots of potential branches where you have to merge. So I'm just going to reformat this one file. Now after doing that, let's say I want to see what changed. So again, I can go and show the diff. And when looking at the diff, it actually shows quite a few lines have changed. If I say ignore all, there's no differences. But the differences are all in terms of white space. So go back over and let's do the same thing for user. I'm going to hit Command Option L. Now the user file has changed. I'm going to make this one full size. Normally I do this through a key binding, but I'm going to click around here just so I can show you how this is done a little bit more manually. So this changed actually quite a few things. One of the things it's doing when it reformats the whole file is it offers to do these sort of lining up of values here on the right hand side. So let's take a look at this in the diff program. I can also right click on the file and go to the Git menu, and I could compare with same repository version. So again, the RubyMine editor is really smart and ignored all the white space differences, and that makes it really good when you're working on a team and you want to make sure that what you're looking at matters, which are the non-white space differences. Let's suppose that you wanted to change the behavior so that the formatting did not line up like it's doing right there. So that's pretty easy to do. One of the nice things about RubyMine is in the preferences window you can go format. And I'm going to hit code style, and this one is in the code style. I think this is the Ruby formatting. So I go into Ruby formatting, I go into other, and there's an option here, align right parts of assignments or hashes. Notice that when you check and uncheck stuff, it shows you what it's changing and what the difference is. That's a pretty neat UI. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to go back to this file and I'm going to reformat it, and boom. So that's the way it looks without the extra white space there. So when we're doing development, one of the things that you really have to do a lot is navigate between files. So I showed you the original file, and this is probably one of the key things to being an efficient developer is how do you figure out where is the change that you need to make. The first most basic one, which we'll review again, is Command-Shift-O, which is the basic matches any file. This is really useful in Ruby because in Ruby on Rails projects, because you have lots of different file types. Maybe I might want to see the star spec files. I might want to see files that are coffee files, JS files, JS.coffee. If I just have JS in the middle, it seems like it does the stars automatically. So this is really cool. Finds any file you want, and it does neat things like if you hit, notice I had static pages there. If I go SP, let's see, S_P, it shows you everything that's static pages. So the matching works great. That's super when it's just any file you might need, but not just necessarily a file you edited. Sometimes actually when you're editing files, it's good to use the changes because you often make changes to the same file. I'm going to close that. Another thing you might do is you might go to the last place you edited. This I do several times a minute, and that the default binding is Command-Shift backspace. So notice that was a change. You can see by the blue line over on the left. And you go backwards and it keeps going to different places you made edits. And as soon as you type another key and then you start hitting Command-Shift back again, it goes back to your last edit. That is super, super handy. It's in your navigate menu here. The previous, what is that one? Last edit location. That one should be in bold because that one you use all the time. So next one is, that's super useful, is going to files that you recently edited. So you go over to View, Recent Files, and Recently Changed Files. Those are super handy. Recent Files shows you all the recent files that you've been to, not just ones you changed. And Recently Changed Files is typically what I use, because I want to work, typically when I'm working on some files, I'll make changes to them repeatedly. So I'll hit Command-Shift-E, and it brings me up a list of the files. If I type IN, it takes me to a file that's recently changed, and it doesn't take me to everything. So sometimes you might be a little confused. Why isn't a file that I was just at showing there? But this is only taking the ones that actually have edits. So there I'm there. If I hit Command-Shift-E, I'm going to go back to my user file. Next, let's say we just want to go to any file we've been to. That's just say we hit Command-E, and that shows you all your recent files. I find this window much more useful than the default switcher one. It's got a lot of the same features of it, but the main thing is that it lets me quickly type on pages that I've been to recently. Like for example, I was in that, let's see, what was one I was into recently? Say an ERB file. So now this is all the ones that are matched up with ERB. Notice the search shows you what you're searching on the left. You might search for user. These are all the ones related to user, etc. So that's great. Another thing that's super useful for navigating around, this is another feature that I use all day, every day, all the time, is grepping files. So if you're, I would imagine most experienced developers are familiar with the ability, how valuable is grep between the files. One thing that RubyMine gives you, which is awesome, is that it has a great index of all the files it goes through. So you go navigate, you go file, where is this? Find in path, Command-Shift-F. This one I hit all the time, so I just go directly to it. So Command-Shift-F, and let's say I want to find all the lines that say describe. This will show me all the different spec lines. And there's a lot of great options in this dialog. Case sensitive if you want it, whole words, sometimes useful for matching, regular expressions let you do some really powerful different things for finding exactly what you need. You've got, and the scopes are really useful too. You've got the whole project, that's what you use 99% of the time. Sometimes you want to just search, match what's in a directory. You can do it recursively or not. And custom has some really neat options. One is you can search in projects and libraries. That's really useful when you want to look for something in the gems that you're using. Next, another thing that's really useful is this VCS scopes. Sometimes you want to search in just the files you've changed. And of course you can set a file mask, such as this would search for the SAS files. Maybe I want to just search for RB files. And so here are the matches, and then it's very easy to scroll through the different matches. So constantly I'm turning on and off the find window. If I go over to the user, over here in user, let's say I just want to see who's using this following method. That's another useful one. So find usages. That's another one I use all the time. Now, find usages doesn't always work in Ruby like as it might work in a more statically typed language like Java, but it still works quite often enough that I use it all the time. That's pretty much it for the ways I navigate around files all the time. So just to reiterate, because this is so important, Command-Shift-O is the basic one. When you just want to find a file, you pretty much have an idea what the name is. Control-Shift-E is the next one I go to, which is Command-Shift-E, I'm sorry, recently edited files. That's probably the second most often one I use. And then I'll hit Command-E, which shows me this the files I've been to recently. And then Command-Shift-F, bring up the find box, search for something you think you're looking for. A lot of times when you're taking a look at something on the UI, you can just search for the string of text that's in the UI. And then the last one, which I just mentioned, is find usages. Another one you use all the time. Right here it is, find usages. So I'm going to do a quick little example, same example that Michael used. I'm going to go over to a recently edited ERB file. And I've got to delete some lines, and I'm going to go run all the tests in the project. So we'll see if something failed. So I right-click on spec. I'm going to run all the specs. Okay, so here's a list of things that failed, and let's go see if we can figure out why something's going wrong. So a bunch of failures over in the user pages spec. So let's go take a look at the user pages spec. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run the app, and the way you do that is you go over here to the toolbar, hit development, and hit run. So now the app's working on port 3000. So here's the application. And I'm going to go hit users, and this shows you that there's no text here in the users area, and there should be. I'm not going to go into this in detail. You can take a look at Michael's tutorial and you would see what it's missing. So go back to RubyMine, and let's enter the code here to do this, to fix the issue. Go back to, I'm going to go take a look back on my test, which I just deleted the tab on. So let me rerun that. Luckily this runs pretty quickly. When I'm actually doing real development, I typically use some other tools and just keep the test always running in the background. So I click on the test. Here I can navigate right to the test that failed. I'm going to go over to the place where I need to make this change. And I'm going to notice when I start typing, RubyMine gives you lots of helpers to edit the URB file. So UL, CL, class equals users. And then watch what happens when I close this. It actually completes for me. So it shows me all the possible matches. So I'm going to need to render at users, and that's it. And now I am going to rerun. I want to rerun all the tests. What I want to do is I just want to rerun the failing test. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to run these tests. And now they're all passing. So that's it for my little presentation on what are some of my favorite features of RubyMine. Let me just give you some food for thought. I'm going to take a quick look at my notes, and I'm going to give you a few other ones, just in case I missed any. Let's see. Oh, here's one that I forgot. Changes. This is one I really love. In the changes one for the Git support, I could do quite a bit on the Git support. You go into your log, hit refresh, and this shows you everything that is, it shows you just a great view of the diffs. Let's just say I want to go look at this diff that Michael did back in 11.13. Go over here to the file, hit show diff, and boom, I can go and I can see all the diffs that Michael checked in a while ago. And I find that really handy. Okay, here's another one that's pretty cool. This is another one that I don't use as often as maybe as I should. In the user file, I'm in the user RB now. Maybe what I want to do is I want to see all the related files. Like not just, remember I can do Command-Shift-T and go right to the test and go back. That's pretty handy. But I want to go and I want to view the related files. Aha, related file, right there. So if I want to go to the related file, notice it'll take me to the controller, take me to a helper, take me to the different views on the use, and it'll take me to the even the tests. So look, I go right to the controller. Now I've got this, like I said, I use my Vim bindings, which are a bit different, but the key thing is navigate related file, which the default one for their Mac key map is Control Command up arrow. So let's try that with a different file. Let's say I'm in the user pages spec. I want to see what's related to this one. Control Command up arrow. That one doesn't really show me much. Let's go to the app. I want to go to models. I'm going to go to my micropost, and I want to see what's related to this. And here I'll go to the test for the micropost. Here I go to the controller for it. So that's pretty neat. Go to related files. Okay, another one that's really neat is say I'm here in the controller, and the next thing which I'm going to do is I got this little icon next to the different controller actions. This is pretty cool. This takes you right to the view. In this case, these ones don't have views. I think these ones are these ones here are going to be those are AJAX requests. So let me go to the user controller. So the user controller, say like edit, boom, that takes me right to the file right there, and I can go right back to the model from the view, and I can go right to the controller. I can go see the update view. Well, not one right there. Let me go to the show. We'll definitely have it. There we go. There's the show view. Okay, another super cool feature is documentation. Say I want documentation on render. I can, not sure what the key binding is right here, but let's see if I can find the quick documentation. Edit, there, command space. Okay, so hit command space. There we go, quick documentation. And I am going to unpin this so you can see what this more looks like. Let's go back to the user. So has many's one that's very typically you want to look at the documentation on that. So you go view quick. Notice you got quick definition here, which actually shows you the file. Actually, don't use that one too often. But view quick documentation I use all the time. So map to F1 actually. And this is great. It shows me all the documentation that I need for how to use has many and the different options. Hit escape and the window closes. Let's say you want to do some debugging. That's something I didn't show you. That's pretty cool. Let's say that I'm going to go back and let's go back to the user model and let's change something here. Let me comment out this line and let's run the test. So I go over here to the user test here, right click. Let's run these tests. And sure enough, we got a failing test. Here's the failing test. It should be following other user. So click over here, that puts a breakpoint. And I have a feeling that it's probably going to be an error somewhere along here where we're starting out. So let's hit right click on this, hit debug. This will take a second, just needs to update the debugging gem. Okay, there we go. So here's the breakpoint right there, should be following other user. I am going to hit the continue and hit continue, and I'm going to dig into this one, this method right here. So you can step into is F7. I actually remap these to be the same that the Chrome debugger uses, so that way I don't get confused when I switch back and forth. So I will step into again. Notice you've got all sorts of details on the different variables here on the bottom. You can set up watches. You can hit, there's a way you can evaluate, quick evaluate. You can type in any expression you like there, any Ruby expression, and you could see something like, I could type args, I could type args 0, and that's pretty useful. Okay. I'll let this go. It still fails. Some unusual error. Anyway, I think you get the idea though. It makes it super easy to go in and debug the code and see what's going on. The debugger's got some really nifty features in there like conditional breakpoints and some other things that let you find out exactly where you need to go. So I think of all the things I've shown here, the one thing I didn't show that's really my favorite of favorites is the Vim binding. So I'm going to just quickly show you that one. So I'm going to go into my key map and I'm going to switch over to Vim. In order to use this, you need to install the Idea Vim plugin. So I do that, hit apply, hit OK. Now I've got my regular key bindings, and if you're if you're used to not having your key bindings, that really makes a difference. One more thing I need to do is I need to go over to the Tools menu. I think it's the Tools menu, or there we go, Vim Emulator. Aha. Okay, JK, woohoo-hoo. All right. Now I could basically be editing at Mach speed and navigating between files. I can navigate for methods by hitting Command down arrow, Command up arrow navigates. Can hit Command F12, go to any method that I want. I'm actually in the collection proxy and active record. I don't need to be in there. Notice it looks like I changed something in this file. I really don't want to change something in collection proxy. Let's see where the change came from. I hit Option up arrow and down arrow. Probably, I'm actually not, oh, this is not it. It's not going to show me where the diffs are. Let me hit Vim U, and let me just make sure I undo all changes. And look, the star went away. They're from collection proxy. I don't want to change what's over in the gems. Hit Command W, just close some of these other files. I hit Command 2, I can split the window in half. I hit Command 0 unsplits. I hit Command 3 splits windows. Command 0 unsplits. I hit Command E, I go right to a file that I need. For example, right here. I hit Shift V, I'm in line selection mode. Once I'm in line selection mode, I can edit, I can indent, I can unindent. Say I want to change this word users. The Vim binding on here is CIW for change inside word. Boom, and then I could say, you know, blah. Hit escape, hit U, undo that. Let's go and look at other related files where this is. I hit Option F1. I go to my project view. Go up to one of these others. And what I want to show you here, this is a cool feature that they just fixed, is that let's say I want to change everything inside these quote marks. CI quote will do it. CI double quote, and there we go. And cursor's right there. I changed some stuff. Hit escape. Hit undo, I can undo that change. If you've used Vim before, you understand what the power of what I'm talking about. If you haven't, it's worth checking out. There's a pretty large learning curve. I absolutely got frustrated because my hands just couldn't take programming anymore. So by switching to Vim, what it enables you to do is you navigate around by just hitting single keys as opposed to hitting control this, control that, and all sorts of things. So it's indisputable. It makes you faster and better. It does take a little time. If you want to learn it, you can learn it right within RubyMine by installing the Vim plugin. If you got a little bit of experience, it's great. Most of the stuff you did before in Vim will work in terms of for editing files. A lot of commands like for editing different, like how the window's configured and things like that, they're not actually in the file. Those don't really work, or maybe you can remap some of the stuff and make them work a little bit better. So, but for basic text editing, you really can't beat it. So that's I think that's pretty much the list. Sorry for taking so long. Hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope you learned something, and good luck learning Ruby on Rails and checking out RubyMine. Bye bye.